Sweet podcast.
Yeah, the music, interviews, the culture.
Sweet. Let's get into it.
And then don't forget all the lovely things we plan to do today.
Sweet podcast.
What's up, people? Mr. Al Pete, the Groove Sweet Podcast. Thank y'all so much for hitting play, and hopefully you enjoyed the other days of the 30-day challenge that's been going on. Listen, we're nearing the end of the challenge. We're at the end of October, and it's been interesting. So real quick, I want to plug in my content creator color folks, C4Challenge.com. Go check out the other content that they've been putting out the whole month as well. We're doing a wrap up, like a kind of like a debrief or whatever you want to call it. We're going to do that. So I'm going to make sure I share that video because I share all my all my thoughts about the challenge or whatever. So nevertheless, it's been great. And I thank everybody for the support. I thank all the guests that came on here. Yeah. And we have another guest. Oh, she's a great person. She's such a, I don't have a name for it, but the words are all in my head. But all I know is she's a dope ass person, man. Excuse my French, but she's definitely a dope lady. At the moment that describes her to me is like ambitious.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, and I won't go too deep into it, but just the word ambitious. And I like to see ambitious people, like the rolling the dice type of people. Yeah. I respect those people like totally, because I feel like I roll the dice, but I think I need to roll like 3 or 4 different dices at a time. You know what I'm saying? Just to see how. And at this point in life, I could probably roll about 3 dices. And if one doesn't work, I'll be okay. Like it won't, you know what I'm saying? Like it won't be like a harmful type of roll. So, with that being said, she's very dope. Known her for a good minute. Miss Regina, how are you? It's early in the morning. What's going on?
It's very early. It's going good. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. Like I say, it's early. But I'm here. I actually got up like 2 hours early because I didn't want to miss anything and miss my alarm. So Here I am.
Well, that's good. I appreciate the effort of coming on, and I think this is going to be interesting or whatever. So let's introduce the artist album that we're going to be speaking on today.
Yeah. So I chose Jazmine Sullivan, and I chose her infamous album, Heaux Tales, Motels, which is a combination of the first drop, which was considered an EP, and then the second drop was Heaux Tales, Motels, the deluxe. So I think it's a total of about 20 songs on there, 20 songs, and then interludes, a combination of both.
Right. Yeah. So this album, you said the infamous album?
Well, yeah. So the album dropped in 2021 of January, I believe. And so when she initially released the album, she didn't call it an album. She was like, this is just the EP, a little taste of something, because it had been a while since she dropped the album.
Right.
And so this was like we were anticipating the albums, people who love Jazmine Sullivan. And so I'm like, okay, when are we getting the album? But it wasn't just songs. Like she had, the way she set it up is that the album has interludes before each song. And so the interludes kind of gives you this dialogue, an open, raw dialogue of different women, explaining different scenarios and experiences that they've had in relationships, right? And so I think that's what makes it pretty dope. Like you hear interludes on albums. Every now and then you might have an interlude and an outro, but in this one, it's one before every song. And so I think that helps because it kind of builds, like you're already waiting for the song, but it builds more anticipation of what the song could be. And actually, I love all of the songs on this album, and that doesn't happen a lot for artists for me.
Yeah, especially it's 2021 that this album comes out. Mm-hmm. There's been like this different change of like how artists do things now, so it's very difficult to be able to consume like all their music, because either you have an artist that's like experimenting on stuff, or it's almost like a repetitive type of thing. So Yeah. So this album, I listened to it. I really want to do like a third or fourth listen to really, really, really get into it because
Yes, you
I'm
have
kind of
to.
I'm kind of going off what people were talking about, like the hype of it. And
Okay. And maybe like the singles that were dropped. I think she had 4 singles from this
yeah,
project. And so that was super cool.
wasn't I'm not sure in the rotation. It was a pick up your feelings or something like that, or
So
what
Lost
number was
Ones
that?
was the first one.
Okay.
And then Pick Up Your Feelings, I believe, was the second single. And then she has a single with 2 of her features, which is Put on It with Ari Lennox. And then there is Girl Like Me with her.
Yeah.
And so if you get a chance, you should watch her Tiny Desk feature.
Okay.
Because the combination from there is actually obviously a combination of her previous albums, and then she leads you right into like the hot topics of the most recent, her new album. So you got to add that to your list.
Okay. So speaking of hot, let's dive into the hot aspect of this. Like
Okay.
the hype that everybody had been talking about. I mean, the title alone, you know what I'm saying? It's like
Right.
that whole like risque. Not even
Right.
risque. Is it risque or is it
Well,
like
so it can be very taboo. So even though we're
okay.
in 2022 and the album came out 2021, and it came at a time like we got introduced to it at the end of 2020, leaping into 2021. So like we were going through the pandemic, people were home. We were like, what are we gonna do? I was in and out during the pandemic, but people were home and wanted music and like, what should I listen to? And we wanted something new. But it's also during a time where it celebrates Blackness in a lot of ways, right? Both positive and negative. I think we talk about the negative more so than the positive.
Always.
But even in the negative, there's a learning curve, right? So you mentioned the title, right? So Heaux Tales. And so initially we're like, well, not everybody, but some people, it can be very taboo because it's like, you don't say that word. But the Heaux Tales title, I think for me, kind of speaks volume to some things that you talk about with your girlfriends or even your homeboys or even in your most vulnerable relationships with people, and being able to use the term, and which could be seen as endearing as well as like, wait a minute, and so I actually, I was excited for the title because, again, it was something that goes against the grain. We've not necessarily seen Jazmine kind of have a title like this, but it was needed for a time that it was presented. And so the album gives volume to relationships, love, lust, and just women in general being vulnerable enough to stand and be accountable to your feelings and into like all of these different emotions that you have. And I think the album takes you through a journey of emotions that you can own and be proud of because of the words that she used and the metaphors and just different things. Like, I think for me, I was like, oh, this is, perfect, because definitely like for myself, I'm a person where like people see one thing, but I have layers to me, and I'm okay with saying that. Like, I have layers to me. And so unless you are in a certain space with me, you don't always get to see different aspects of me. But in this album, like, I feel like no matter who you are as a woman, there's even a guy's interlude on here, but I feel like everyone can relate to this album and to a song on this album in some, shape, form, or fashion. So
yeah, I agree with that. And when we talking about Jazmine Sullivan, like, will we say that this album is will we say this is the album that kind of like she went there with this album? Like, this is the most outspoken type of album, because I feel like Jazmine Sullivan, she's been on kind of like the cuffs of that with certain songs that she's had in the past, where it's almost like where she's addressed this a dynamic aspect of whatever relationships, love, lust,
but
or whatever.
not like this.
But not like but not like this. And it's like, So when she came out with the whole package, I was just like, oh, okay. But I mean, it was accepted. Well, me personally, I felt like I accepted it immediately because I felt like she could play that both roles, and she know how to like tailor to like certain, specific situations or whatever. So I was able to like receive the album, listen to it with an open mind or whatnot, versus any other artist that I guess like blunt with it or whatever, or let's just say, and I'm pulling this out of my head, like Anita Baker, like, if Anita Baker came out with like a raunchy album, you'd be like, like you weren't doing this earlier. You didn't really give no hints of it, but Jazmine Sullivan, almost like she kind of set things up to where we get this album right here. And I think that's why I receive it so much. From an empowering standpoint, it's almost like an empowering type of feel to me. Like you said, it's the different layers. Yeah, it's like the different layers. And I'm like, if anybody else could do that, it would be very like tricky, depending on the artist. But I felt like she was the kind of like the sweet spot in the middle, the person to do it, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. So to your point about Anita Baker, I think, so I was listening to Anita Baker actually a few nights ago. I was driving on the road. And one of the things, like, even in, like, I felt like preparing, for this whole conversation, one of the things is like during the time when Anita Baker came out, like, there was this mystery about the music that was out then, whether it was hip hop or R&B, that it still catered to what needed to be disseminated at that time, right? Through music. Right. But there's this like mysterious sexiness or sex appeal that Anita Baker brings that's kind of like very sultrous and sassy or whatever. And so that's why we like her. I heard somebody say that, like, if you didn't clean your house, listen to Anita Baker, your house wasn't clean. And so when we come into like 2021, 2022, during what's happened, everything that we've encountered, even up until this point, this whole album with Jazmine Sullivan, again, it is empowerment, but it's empowerment on another level wherein like, it's okay, like giving women permission to say like, hey, it's okay to have been in a situation and like, for instance, there's a song on here and it's basically like empowering yourself to be like, I am that chick, and so a lot of times for women, especially Black women, we don't always get like, sometimes it's like, well, ladies are to be seen and not heard. Well, through this song and this album, Jazmine Sullivan, through these interludes and these conversations, these women are being very open and raw and uncut. Like, hey, here's a situation I was in, rather good or bad. And then there are other situations and conversations where they're like, oh, I do this and this is why I do it. And I'm proud of it. And so it's less about right or wrong and more about people being able to bring their whole self to a situation. Because a lot of times we go through situations or we kind of engage with ourselves and others, and we aren't proud about it because someone else has made us feel bad about the whole encounter. And I think this album says, no, feel proud about what you did, feel proud about if you were dating and the way that you dated was like, I only date ball players, or I only date men who make six figures. Or, there's another thing where like women are like, I date this type of thing or that type of thing. And I think that that's important for us to recognize, because again, it's not about right or wrong, but it's about bringing your whole self to a conversation without any judgment, to say like, we are all in here kind of going through life, experimenting, if you will, really, because let's be honest, the women who exist and how we exist and how we show up is because of like our background and what we've been taught or not taught. And I think that you hear this and see this in this album with all of the emotions.
Like I was holding on to a thought. I was listening for sure, but I mean, I was holding on to this thought that you said. You said bringing your whole self to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
That was powerful, man. I think yeah, that was powerful right there. You said that because I mean, I of course, I mean, I can't speak for the women, but I guess I can speak on just us being Black. How about that? I'll say us being Black people, but you being a Black woman, I'm being a Black man. But like, it's been plenty of times where you don't bring your whole self to the situation for whatever reason or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and it's like you get like this revelation of whatever, whether it's a song or a book or a scripture, or even talking to your friends or whatever, and then you're like, okay, you're comfortable to bring yourself to that point. But that's a good perspective that you brought into it, when it comes to this album in particular, because of course when it comes to the hype, everybody was like, oh, they talking about being that, like, and being
But
okay with that.
even in that, it's like, own it and be liberated in it, right? Because especially for women, we're taught to oh no, like I'm not going to talk about that. But being my whole self says that I can come into this space and I can be vulnerable and I can own the vulnerability. Owning it, meaning even if you don't accept it, I can still stand it and it be okay, and not wear shame and embarrassment and like, oh, maybe I spoke too soon, because that happens a lot. Like, a lot of times it's kind of like, don't trust this person or watch out for this. And yeah, so we'll get into it, but yeah.
No, I mean, we can get into that part. I'm
Okay.
interested to know the aspect of it. I mean, because even just this small conversation that we're having right now, like, I definitely want to go back and like revisit that album, because I mean, I ain't gonna lie, it was some pockets in the albums where I was like, this is very like blunt. This is very straightforward. Like, it was almost like I don't care, I'm gonna do what I want to do. It came from that standpoint versus hey, this is the vulnerability that you got to deal with. Stand in it, and it's okay. Like, it's totally okay. So about that mix up or whatever, like, yeah, I'm sitting here thinking like you said something powerful, man. I'm just kind of stuck on that part. But go ahead. Like,
Yeah. So on the album, there's this interlude where women are talking, and it sounds like there's a combination of like older women, like maybe mid to late 40s, early 50s.
yeah.
And it really sounds like a salon scene.
Right.
And so these women are talking about how these women are basically kind of talking about when women are in relations with men, and how, because we want something as a woman from the man, we do, or we oblige to the man's request, right? And so there's a woman in there, and I call her auntie, I don't remember her name. And she's basically saying like, a part of what we do as women is we are tricking, whether we are educated or uneducated, like it's all the same. Right. And I chuckle because it's true. It's like, what we've done in society is say, if you do it the right way, you're not a trick, or you're not this, right? Like the song, like, it ain't tricking if you got it, or something like that. And I'm like, but we're all the same. And I think that that's what this album highlights for women. Like, whether you're a PhD holder or a bachelor's degree or no degree or a high school diploma, like, the idea is the way that we deal with men and the way that we deal with ourselves, we sit on common ground with that.
Yeah, there's a straight line with it.
The rest of these things that we wear supposedly makes us different. But at the end of the day, we are a woman first. We are a woman first with feelings. We are a woman first who, there may be things about our physical bodies that we want to change. There may be things that we alter. There may be things where we go through levels of emotions to be comfortable with this body and this being that we wear, both internally and externally. And so again, the common ground is that we're women. We're a woman first. And so whether I'm doing something in secret or out in public, we're all the same. And this album kind of puts that there for you. Obviously, the album talks about love, and then just different ways of love, which is the song, when you think about, so listening to the song Lost One. And so there's a portion of the song that is basically like, it's basically, for a better lack of terms, it's kind of like, I don't want you out here loving anybody else. Like, things aren't working for us technically, but, I don't want you with nobody else. And I think that that's honest to say, like, as a woman who has dated and just different things and experienced heartbreak or hardships or whatever when things don't always pan out. The truth is, like, there are breakups that we experience where it does hurt us, right? And sometimes we wallow in the emotions of it longer than what someone tells us. Like, okay, it's been 3 months, pull yourself together. But the reality of it is, like, sometimes it takes us longer to get over those things. Sometimes, you know, and sometimes we get put ourselves in situations where we know it's not right for us, but we want to be there. Like, which is another, song on the album that talks about like how we shouldn't have got into the relationship. We shouldn't have even passed certain levels, but we do it. And again, the commonality of all of that is like, no matter who we are, no matter how much money we make, whether we're single or married, have money or don't, these are the things that we encounter in life, but being able to own those things and be accountable to it. The features were pretty cool. I am always interested in like how an artist filters through all of these features and like able to say like, okay, this is who I want on this song.
Let's talk about. You had Ari Lennox and then her.
Her.
So for me, I feel like Ari Lennox is that she's definitely, I don't care how much songs she's saying, she always gives me that risque vibes. Like, but it's very chill risque, if that makes sense. And
So Ari Lennox reminds me of the girl that's like definitely wants to be sexy and wants to own it, but she also is kind of like, maybe she was taught to like not be so aggressive, if you will, and so she has to kind of slide into this whole thing. I like it though, and maybe that's kind of like, maybe because I identify with her in terms of like, I was taught and groomed a certain way, whether it was in corporate America or not. And so for me, it's one of those songs where I'm like, I like this because I look this way, right? I look one way. And so people are going to judge you or have a perception based off of your physical appearance first. Mm-hmm. But then again, that layer to me is like, oh, okay, I can rock with this. And so that's kind of how I am. I agree with how you said what you mentioned about Ari Lennox.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she has that, I guess the common ground when it comes to her, because her is more like sensual, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like just kind of
sensual and subtle.
Yeah,
but
flow
they're both
with the wind
women,
or whatever.
Right?
But both of them have that mystique aspect about them, that whole like mysterious type of feel to it. And then you got Jazmine Sullivan kind of like in the middle, like, girl, go ahead and do this. Go ahead and do that. It's like that. So I feel like that's I would think that would be the dynamic as to how Jazmine Sullivan picked
the two
or whatever, because of the broad conversation about the album. I mean, because this is a concept album. Like, usually people just make albums like, let me just put songs on it, but this was a very thought out album or whatnot. So strategically, she was like, okay, I'm talking about. And usually with concept albums, from an artist standpoint, you really want to kind of hit all bases, but still find a common ground to all of it. So with your explanation of what you said about, the woman that has a PhD versus the woman that has a high school diploma, it don't matter what levels it is, it's still a common ground of you being a woman. So to cover that kind of base or whatever, you have two dynamic, fairly new, I wouldn't say fairly new, I would say new as in seasonals, like they're seasoned now, but they're still like fairly new to us. To put an Ari Lennox and a her into the mix of it, I think that was just a dope recipe for sure.
Yeah, like, so to your point about like the album being balanced, if you will, like having like Ari Lennox, both of them, and her, both of them having like this very mysterious thing about themselves. Like, I agree. And so that even helps the way that the album is, the format of it, like the way the songs flow, the conversations that flow, and where in which those albums come. Even when she did when she released the deluxe version and released like another set of, because even when I heard the original version, I'm like, okay, there's more and I hope we get more. And so I'm glad that it was kind of like a re-release of a deluxe version. That way it keeps the flow of part 1 and part 2, if you will.
Right. So yeah, that's just beautiful artist action, and I'm speaking on the artist aspect of it. For an artist to be able to pull that off, I think that was great. And that's how most artists think about it. I ain't saying everybody have a different approach when it comes to that, but in this particular album, I'm trying to segue into like this conversation about how people took it in regards to like, because I'm telling you, we on Twitter, shouts out to Twitter.
Yeah.
Everybody named mama on Twitter, like,
yeah,
I could be this, I could be that, and talking to, and they always take the angle and like twist it in so many ways. But the way that we're talking about it is like very beautiful because, it's art. So it's not like it was okay for her to get into that lane and talk about the trick aspect of it. But, Twitter blew that up like crazy. So,
yeah. I think it's because, again, people's perspective is like, what is right or wrong? And if we could step out of looking at things and examining things from what is a right and a wrong, because even in that, who are we examining it by? What's the standard? The standard is by somebody else's standard of right or wrong. But if we could really I think even men can really listen to this album and identify, yes, a woman, did all of the writing and the vocals or whatever. But I think we can all take something away from somewhere in this project and okay, I can identify with this, or we know someone. And I think that that's what people forget. So yes, some people kind of tore the album up like, oh, this is this or whatever. But again, it brought a conversation. It created sparks to make people have conversation, which was what it was supposed to do, whether people like it or not. I don't know. I love the album and I see it I kind of appreciate all aspects of it, not just because I'm a woman, but just because I'm a woman. I can appreciate every aspect of it being a project where there's no judgment, because a lot of times we do walk in spaces where it's just nature, like our human nature, where we automatically judge something, right? Like we look at something and think, oh, we know what it is. And then it's like, you have no idea. So,
right.
So yeah.
Why do you think people in a space like Twitter, and even go bigger, in a space like social media or like the internet, all of this opportunity or thoughts or whatever the case may be, why do you think people still feel like it's got to be a right or wrong thing? And that is, you had some great points on here. I love it. Because the whole right or wrong thing in my mind, I'm like, y'all haven't even explored it. But at the same time, too, a lot of people, including us to a certain degree, we've been stuck in this mindset of, well, it has to be this way, it has to be that way. You know what I'm saying? Versus being like, look, I'm just going to liberate myself and kind of explore the opportunities and let something be. So I don't understand why there's a right and wrong when it comes to certain topics like this. And I think women get hit very hard with that.
Absolutely.
Y'all get hit very hard with the whole right or wrong thing. But my question is why do you feel that in a world where we can kind of explore and be ourselves, I feel like at this point in life we can be ourselves, but it's still this right or wrong that people always divert back to? Why do you feel like that's the case?
So I think it goes back to maybe environment. A lot of what we've learned, we have to unlearn those things as it relates to culture, as it relates to religion, as it relates to how to navigate relationships. I think it's one of those things where unless you are in a ongoing process or journey to kind of unlearn some of those things and being open-minded, I think you need both of those, right? And so sometimes people are just so dead set on what they have been taught, right? They're not open-minded about it. And sometimes it comes maybe with age and, just kind of like your circle. I have a friend and we always talk about like it's very important to have your tribe. And I think that having a tribe, being open to the evolution of your tribe, and most importantly, yourself, it allows you to enter into spaces mentally to be able to be open-minded about like, okay, let me change my perspective on this. Not that you have to agree, because again, here's an opportunity. Like going into conversations, for example, when we go into conversations with other people, it's usually to set the record straight.
Right.
And it's usually to be like, here's what I know more than you. Right. Very rarely do you get people to come into a conversation and be open to say, you know what, let me see what I can learn from this. Not agree. You don't have to agree to learn, but just being able to say, you know what, I know that I feel strongly about a topic for whatever reason, but let me hear this other person out because I can learn from this other person. And so what I do as like a lifelong thing of mine is like, I'm always providing perspective for people. So family, friends, or whatever, who are like asking me for my opinion, I'm like, well, you don't need my personal opinion. But what I will do is provide perspective. And I think that, again, that's what this album does. I think that's what, even when you think about the topics and what's being talked about, it provides perspective. You don't have to agree, but it provides perspective to let you, like, the world would be so boring if everybody thought the same way. If we didn't have the people who were mysterious, but had a little sassiness, we would be looking like, okay, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And so, to the point of the album, the topics that are explored, the artists that are on here as features, even Jazmine Sullivan, like so many times we criticize artists for every album sounding the same, right? Mm-hmm. But then here it is, and she's like, well, let me do this during a time when we actually needed this. Like, let's be clear, like, Black people are dope, right? AF. Right. And so here's an album that kind of elevates that on so many levels, right? Because again, it's not about right or wrong. It's about providing perspective. It's about being open, so that we can appreciate, the differences that we do have. Because again, the bottom line is we all want love or fall in and out of love. We all have fallen in and out of lust, if you will. We've all been in situations where we really thought we were doing it, and then we got broken down, and it was like, no, you're not giving a 10, you give it a 3. You know what I mean? Right. That's the reality of it. But again, that's a part of being your authentic self, bringing your whole self to a conversation and say like, I never thought about it like that. Or like, I totally navigated that differently. Not wrong. I navigated it differently, which gave me different results. So I hope that answered your question.
Oh, it does. It does. I mean, I used to get frustrated like crazy. I think now I don't get as frustrated because I just be like, people gonna be who they're gonna be, and people gonna think what they're gonna think. But I just be I get kind of like, I don't know, for lack of a better phrase, sad, because I'm like, yo, like certain people's perspectives are actually very thought-provoking. Not saying you got to agree with it, but just the fact that you can be able, that another person can show you like a different way of thinking, or just make you consider it. I think that's the most beautiful thing, and we definitely have to break out a lot of those. We have to break out of those modes that we came up on, growing up, and I feel like with this album and the topics that they're talking about, it's definitely taboo. It's still taboo, and I'm like, why is this still taboo? Like, and it frustrates me because I'm like, why are people still like narrow-minded with these type of topics? And I'm thinking to myself, like, we've been past that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we done went through like a we done went through the trill days. We done went through all these modes, and it's like people still acting like they got like stockings on, like, you know what I'm saying? Like they going to
right, and they slip, right. But even in that, when you really dig into it, you're like, oh, okay. And I think the other thing is like grace. Like when we learn, this is my belief, right? I haven't written a book or anything, but when we learn to like be gracious to ourselves, it's it's easier to do it, give it to others. And I think that that's what this album shows, right? Like you have these women, again, sitting in spaces, having these conversations.
Right.
And a part of bringing your whole self requires that you feel safe and then bringing it to a safe space, right? And so understanding what a safe space is, no judgment, no side eyeing, because we do that a lot, especially as Black folks. Like we are the most critical with each other without any like level of love and grace of what it really is. And so like, I'm not saying not have a standard, but then my question is, where do we get these standards from? Not that they're right or wrong, but where do we get them from? And I think that's my thought-provoking thing for people is like, we have to give grace to each other because there have been situations that I should not have been in, but I was there, right? And I'm okay with talking about those things. And so the reason I talk about them is to let another young lady know or another woman know, like, hey, you're not the only one that's made a decision that might not have been the best decision. What I'm here to tell you, though, is you made that decision, stand in it. How do we move forward? Like, forgive yourself for how do you move forward? And so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's crazy because like the topic Heaux Tales and all the topics that are involved in it, I feel like that's like one of the top 3 biggest things that Black folks, so just people just really had this like misconception on, or they won't let themselves open up to it.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I don't even hear people talk about the political aspect of it. Like, you know, if you're Republican or Democrat, like I don't hear no big arguments about that or disagreements about that. I don't hear about parenting. You know what I'm saying? Like parenting and like education. But when it comes to like love, lust, relationships, stuff like that, I feel like that's like top 3 of like the most problematic things that happen. And I say problematic meaning people will stop doing everything to like address this type of thing, whether they saying, oh, you wrong for feeling this way, or girl, you need to go ahead and do this, or man, go on. It's just like people will stop in their tracks to talk about these type of like this situation that we're talking about now in regards to the album. So it's dope that Jazmine Sullivan was able to make an album like this and the climate that we're in. And because we definitely need to free ourselves a little bit. I think once we start learning how to free ourselves a little bit, and like you said, she's dropping gems, y'all. The grace, being, finding a way to have grace with yourself and to be able to pour it into others. I think that's a dope thing too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's not a lot of spaces for people to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I joke all the time. And I tell people, I'm like, man, some of y'all have some really bad friends. Like, the people who y'all have around y'all, y'all have some really bad friends because I could just tell when people call me, in confidentiality, which I have no problem with. And I'm thankful that I'm that one of those type of people in this world where people feel like they come talk to me and it's not going to go past me.
Right.
But my thing is like, I want to give people safe spaces when they come and talk to me about it. So, but a lot of people don't allow that. And I think, like you said, the person has to give themselves grace for them to be able to extend it to somebody else. So it's a lot of work that we got to do, basically.
This is true. Yeah. Like, just definitely examine ourselves. And I think everybody should go back and listen to this album.
I'm going to listen to it again I'm going to listen to it, but it's, as an artist, well, no, not as an artist, as a consumer, I just love how, and I hope I make sense when I say this. My homie said yesterday, was in a conversation, shouts out to Willie Evans, but he was saying like, when you're telling a story, the villain is just as important as the hero.
Yes.
And, I think a lot. I think too much. But that resonated with me like crazy. And so now that we've had this conversation, I'm like, and I'm not saying you're definitely not the villain. The villain would be Twitter.
Oh.
The hero would be you. So I could take both of these back and be like, all right, let me listen to it and then, develop my own perspective. Well, a deeper perspective of it. So
yeah. And I think it's important to like So listen to it in phases. Like, so when I say phases, so there are also like these short visual clips.
Okay.
Because again, we learn differently, right? As we grow or whatever, as we get older or whatever, our learning styles may change or collide with others and that type of thing. And so they're like visual clips that you can view where you can actually see them sitting and having conversations, and even like just seeing the differences in just the women that are a part of the project in that aspect, right?
Right.
And then the voices, the change in the voices, and then hearing the differences in the conversations on each interlude from each song that helps set you up for the songs. I mean, I think that's all very, like you mentioned earlier, that was very strategically done and planned out.
Absolutely.
And entertaining as well, because again, during the time that it actually came out, like we couldn't kind of sit and be with anybody. So like having these different components is kind of like something that I think helps really waters that seed of like what this album is and what it could be. And so,
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I do want to mention, like, I absolutely love Jazmine Sullivan's voice. I love her range. And it's very like soulful and sensual and sexual all in one. And then at the same time, it's very rough around the edges, depending on what she's saying and how she's saying it. So
yeah, she definitely has that mixture. When you said that rough aspect, I was like, yeah, like she's like the rough soul. You know what I'm saying? And when I say soul, I'm talking about close to like neo soulish, that type of like that soul. But she definitely has that rugged. Because I'm thinking about like bust the windows out your car. Like I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, the fact that she was talking about busting windows out the car, but she was still like kind of melodic with it.
Yeah. Or Need You Bad. Like Need You Bad was like one of her first singles back in the day, and just kind of like how she carried the song and everything, you know. So
that was a great description that you gave Jazmine Sullivan, because especially like Need You Bad for sure. It didn't sound like she was begging. She was just a more of a plea, like a
like just bringing her whole self to like you felt like you're like, oh yeah, I've been in a situation where I felt like I needed this person very badly to survive or whatever it was, like you. And I think that is how she's able to kind of connect with her audience, right? Like the people who love her and rock with her is simply because of she carries you, or she takes you on this journey of emotions that you never even know you needed or even existed in your own self until you're listening to a song that she does. And being able to do one song different ways, because when you listen to the album and then listen to her sing it live and then maybe listen to another thing, you're like, oh, she can do all of those things with this one song. And then you get to pick which version you like.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to share with us about Jazmine Sullivan? One fact I found, I saw this like last week when I was doing kind of like I was doing a scan of some albums, but I didn't know that her album went platinum, so I thought that was dope.
Yes, it
so
did.
Apparently people love it. So
yeah. Enough people, right? Maybe not everybody, but enough people. I mean, even if they don't love the complete album, I'm sure there is a song, right? Everybody could rock with Pick Up Your Feelings.
Yeah,
everybody
for sure
might be able to rock with Lost Ones or Girl Like Me, you know. So I like all of the singles, but I may be biased.
Yeah, I got you. But yeah, anything else you want to share with us that you sound like you was doing your homework?
No, I mean, again, listen to the album, listen to both the first release of it as well as the additional tracks that she put on there. She has, so we talked about the song features, but then she has like a feature where she does a tale herself. So the tales are called like Amanda's Tale, Jasmine's Tale. She has a bro tale where a guy is basically kind of pouring his heart out about his encounter, which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
Issa Rae has a tale on there that she's talking about. So, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta listen to this again with this new perspective in mind. Yeah. But good deal. Well, listen, I appreciate you getting on the show. This was a very good conversation. Definitely enjoyed it. Has this been our first? I don't know. I feel like this is.
This
I
is
feel like
our
this
first time.
Well, no, I'm just talking about music conversations in general. I'm sure we might have like kind of scaled it a little bit, like music wise, but I know we haven't got as deep like this with music when we talk, but I'm trying to think, have we ever talked about music or even brought it up in conversation?
I don't think so.
We need to have more of these, friends. We need to have more of these, friends. It don't have to be podcast related, but it definitely.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna have to put I have a list of people who I'm like, if I send a song to them, I'm like, yo, check this out. Tell me what you think. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, too, you do float around Groove Suite Facebook page often.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So nevertheless, I appreciate you even being on here. Yeah. Do you want to tell people where they can find you at or the endeavors or anything?
Yeah. So
plug away.
I think I'm Gina Nicole Love on Instagram, and on Facebook, I'm Regina Roberts. I read, I fly, I travel. So that's me.
Oh man. You know what? You gotta do the well, I ain't gonna press you to do it, but I don't know, the blogging lane might be the lane. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean you don't have to. These could be your own journeys, but
okay.
You said traveling though, like because you travel a lot, and I'm like, it's you and a couple of people I look and I'm like, man, y'all living life, and I love it.
I try.
Yeah, so good deal. Well, hold on tight. Let me close this show. Okay. The Groove Suite podcast. Thank y'all so much for listening. Y'all already know where to find us at the Groove Suite on Instagram and Twitter. MPN Management, Instagram and Twitter. Mr. LP, Instagram and Twitter. On Twitter, I am Mr. LP MPN now, but you can find me on there. Go to the websites, mpn-llc.com, all the other great stuff, and listen to the other shows that we got going on. But hopefully you enjoyed this one, and go listen to Jazmine Sullivan's album. Some good stuff. Get some perspective. So y'all be good to yourselves and be good to others. The Groove Suite podcast has been brought to you by Mr. Penis's Neighborhood and the Groove Suite. Make sure you stay in tune with us on our socials, on Instagram and Twitter, at The Groove Suite, and on Facebook, The Groove Suite Podcast. If you want to email us some music, tell us that you like us, email us at groovesweetjacks@gmail.com. New things, new vibe, new soul, all that. Thank you to everybody who supports us, rock with us, and vibe with us. The Groove Suite.